All right, let's turn to City Hall right now. And new polls are out, and they show Quinn and de Blasio in a dead heat. You probably didn't think you'd hear that about a month ago. Now, if there were a runoff, and there looks to be right now, Quinn, she is beat out by both de Blasio and Bill Thompson head-to-head. Now, in those hypotheticals here, she comes out on the short end both times. But if it ends up being a battle of the Bills, de Blasio takes it. This at least surprises me. Thompson, he does best among African Americans. De Blasio does best among white voters, and Quinn does best among Latinos. Again, somebody explain that one to me. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, Lota still the front runner, and compared to the last poll that came out, his margin is getting bigger and bigger. All right, I'm going to start on the Democratic side with you, Dominic. Explain, listen, de Blasio, he may have talent, he may have experience, as you reminded everybody yesterday, in terms of, this was a guy who ran, really, for all intents and purposes, Clinton Senate campaign when she was in New York, so it's not like he's coming out of nowhere. Right. That all said, I'm surprised in like a head-to-head he can beat Thompson, and we just said it, there doesn't seem to be a natural consistency that really likes Christine Quinn. Enough to say that they really like her. Some of them she'll be the candidate by default, but right now it seems like it's two bills. You buy that?
I do buy the argument of two bills. I do believe that Christine Quinn is in serious trouble, and I think just looking at her, for someone that knows her, you can tell that she knows that she's in serious trouble. I'm not buying it yet. There's been, two polls? I'm not buying that de Blasio's the front runner. I just don't, the math just doesn't add up. I just don't see it based upon the constituencies. Yeah. I understand he's the progressive, but I just don't see it. I really see this race, but his problem is, frankly, no offense, Mr. Thompson, he's so boring. But I really see this as Bill Thompson's race.
Do this for everybody. Pull the curtain back. Starting next week, Tuesdays, it's going to be 3 weeks to the primary. What happens behind the scenes in terms of whether it's endorsements or, more important, union support here? What happens that's going to make this thing go one way or the other? Because we hear, well, Thompson's not really represented fairly because the polls don't take in fact the homes without landlines, all the other stuff. What happens in these mayoral races in the last 3 weeks that decides one way or the other in these primaries who wins?
You step it up in every possible, conceivable way that you can. It's now time almost for get out the vote. That's the bottom line. Get out the vote efforts. That's why Thompson came so close to Bloomberg the last time around, and that's why you can't sleep on this guy. He has the establishment support, Thompson. He has the union support. And so now you turn to these unions and you say, it's time to deliver. I know what the polls have said, but you've got to get out there, knock on the doors, get to those phone banks, and turn out the vote.
Go to the pastors, I guess.
Go to the pastors, to everybody that can turn out your base. That's what de Blasio's going to do. You're going to see, if you thought you've seen a lot of his wife before and his biracial kids, you will see a lot of them
closing this campaign. Do the party machines really still exist?
I don't know about the party machines, but the labor unions.
And the borough machines, do they really make a difference?
Nah, I don't see the borough machines. Not as strong.
Now, on the flip side, Lota, at this point at least, seems like he's going to get by regardless of how much Casamatidis spends here in the last few weeks. What does he have to do to be relevant in a general election? And everybody knows registration. It's, 3-1 in the city here, Democrat, Republican?
6 to 1.
6 to 1. Sorry to bring you down. That said, everybody that knows Lota says he's a lot more competent than the general public knows. He'd actually do a decent job, if not a good job.
Absolutely.
But the personality, it doesn't come across on camera, and he also doesn't have the funds. Can he do anything to make this thing competitive?
Well, actually, I'm going to first disagree with Dominic a little bit because the labor unions and all of your institutional clubhouse support is completely divided amongst the Democrats this year. So I actually think that does present another opening for Lota. But whoever the Democratic nominee is, I watched the debate the other night, and it was completely underwhelming. And I think that's been a sentiment that's been pervasive throughout the entire campaign.
Right?
So I think it actually, whoever emerges from that Democratic primary sets up a really nice contrast with someone like Joe Lhota, who has experience. He's been deputy mayor. He's run large organizations.
Yep.
He has the competence. He has the ability to cross over and get Democratic support. I mean, when you look at the social issues, there's really no difference between him and the Democratic.
You're working with the Lhota campaign.
I do, yeah, of course. But
now, one issue that your guy's going to have to deal with, it's an issue that's been in the headlines. Dominic's been covering this up until really even the judge's decision. I'm talking about stop and frisk. And speaking on his weekly radio program, Mayor Bloomberg today said federal judge who imposed those reforms on the NYPD knows, quote, absolutely zero about police work. City officials, they filed a notice of appeal today against the ruling. And Dominic, this puts, it gives a little clarity because Lhota at least can say, I'm for it, my opponent's against it. That said, the mayor's going to make this, he's doing his best to make sure this is going to be an election issue.
It's amazing to watch how these things play out, Richard. You know, the mayor did have a choice here. You know, political theater, it's just amazing to watch. The mayor and the police commissioner, they had a choice. You know what their option was? If they feel that Judge Scheinlin knows absolutely nothing about policing, they could have testified at the trial. But yet, lawyers for the city argued that the mayor and the police commissioner were absolutely too busy running the city to testify. So the mayor's doing what you would expect the mayor to do. He lost. He's trying to put the best foot forward. But really, and Thompson already has a statement out tonight, and you know, I want to talk about Lhota and the Democratic nominee, but if Lhota wins the Republican side, Thompson already put out a statement, and we talked about this last night. Every Democrat, the mayor can appeal all he wants to. If the Democrats take back City Hall, guess what the first thing the Democrat is going to do? They're going to drop the appeal. Thompson has his statement out tonight saying that the first thing he's going to do as mayor is drop the appeal. He already has it out. What I wanted to say about the general election, I've lived through Rudy Giuliani and the Democratic nominee, David Dinkins. So here's what I'm willing to say. All the Democrats are going, Yahoo, we're taking back City Hall. Don't count too fast. I'm not willing to write off Lhota. The plus for Lhota, he was Giuliani's deputy mayor. The negative for Lhota, he was Giuliani's deputy mayor.
The one thing is, whoever emerges on the Democratic side, unlike Dinkins, I don't think the white Democratic voter is going to be scared of the Democratic nominee. Everybody thinks that Bill Thompson is vanilla in terms of
but they might be afraid of Bill de Blasio, who's almost running like a black man, if you will. You know, but Joe Lhota is someone who's capable. I didn't know if he had the personality, but he's shown himself to have the personality. Don't write this guy off. All it takes is one incident. Yeah. Remember, if you look back to Ed Koch and Dave Dinkins during the primary, you had, God forbid this happened, you had a racial murder, Yusef Hawkins. It can take one incident in the city that can completely flip this race. Well, don't write off
And
Lhota.
There's always war of words, Jessica. And Catsimatidis, he said that he's ready to go on the counterattack if Lhota attacks him first. I want to quote him directly. When he spoke to the Daily News, the editorial board this week, he said, if they go negative, Catsimatidis saying this, if they go negative on me, nuclear bombs fall. We already paid for them. They're already in the can. Catsimatidis talking about the attack ads he's already, he claims, prepared against Lhota. You guys worried about what he might drop?
It sounds like, you know, a common theme coming out of a candidate that's running, you know, double digits behind. We're not worried about it. What we're focused on right now is getting out Joe's record, his management abilities, and bringing that to as many voters as possible. So we're running a positive campaign. All of our paid advertising is positive, and, you know, it's unfortunate that John said that.
The Lhota camp see as a net asset or a negative if they wrap themselves in the Giuliani years? If Rudy Giuliani offers the stump for Lhota throughout the general, would Lhota welcome that, or would he say, you know, they're ready to turn the page?
What he said is that he's inextricably linked to Rudy, and you know that's certainly a big part of his background and his experience. And a lot of people felt that Rudy was one of the best mayors we've ever had, if you look at polling on it. So I think Joe's position is he's Joe Lhota. He's not Rudy Giuliani. He's not Mike Bloomberg. He's his own guy. He has his own management style. He has his own vision for what he wants to do for the city. But of course, we're happy to have Rudy's support.
And guess what? Those ads that apparently Casamatides has in the bag ready to go, he's going to drop them anyway. Because
what does he have to lose?
Right. The bottom line is, what's scary for the Lhota folks is that Casamatides has, he owns a ton of real estate, a ton of supermarkets. He can spend whatever he wants to spend on this race. Lhota doesn't have that option. Lhota, in all likelihood, is going to win this primary, and then it's going to be a very interesting general election campaign.
If you look at history, though, Dominic, money doesn't always win primaries. Look at Ron Lauder with Giuliani. Look, it happens all over the country.
Right.
So,
we agree on that
at the end of the day, you have to have a message, and if you have no message except attacking people, I don't think that's what people are going to respond to.
When we come back, the RNC, they've made it pretty clear today, CNN, NBC, thanks but no thanks. By those two networks planning their TV programs about Hillary Clinton, the RNC says they won't play ball come debate time. Well, we talk about that, whether they're overreacting or acting in their best interest, straight ahead.